Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
A wise man once said that there are only 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and there's James Harden forcing his way out of yet another NBA team. While we've seen this movie a few more times than anyone can count, his latest tirade against his now ex-best friend Daryl Morey seemed to go beyond a typical beef between an allegedly dishonest employer and a disgruntled employee. I mean, judging by the way he dropped those bombs on the mic, it looks like the beard has just made things personal. The big question now is, why did James Harden call Daryl Morey a liar? And more importantly, how is this going to affect their already deteriorating working relationship moving forward? Now, to understand how Harden got into this hot mess in the first place, we have to look back at his shared past with Daryl Morey, like way back.
He's been stuck on 25. Harden, oh!
Here's a 2-on-1. Harden.
Growing tired of being the third wheel in the Kevin Durant-Russell Westbrook love affair, the 2012 Sixth Man of the Year had enough and took his talents to Houston, where Morey initially signed him for 5 years and $80 million. And thus, a newly found love affair between Daryl Morey and the Beard began to blossom. Morey believed that Harden was worth the money. Just like any lovers on their honeymoon stage, Morey was head over heels for Harden, showering him with lots of praise and calling him a foundational player that can lead Houston back to the promised land.
Harden, one-on-one. Shot clock, 2, 1. Step back.
Over the next 3 seasons, Harden showed that he was worth every penny that Morey paid him for by elevating his game to new heights, while helping the Rockets make the postseason year after year. Despite not reaching their ultimate goal though, Morey still believed in Harden's capability to lead the franchise, and in 2016, he gave him a much-needed boost. This boost came in the form of hiring trigger-happy coach Mike D'Antoni to fully realize his true potential as a lethal scorer and a crafty playmaker.
Eyeballs. Yep. Looking for any kind of crevice.
Oh boy, he's good.
Gets it alive, fights it up, and he scored it somehow. Harden back out there. Oh, what a pass. What a pass.
After smashing a ton of individual scoring records and tallying insane triple-double stat lines under D'Antoni's command, Harden won the MVP award in 2018, and rightfully so. Morey was hailed as Executive of the Year in the same year too. Looking back, this has to be the high point, not just for the Rockets franchise in recent memory, but also in both of their professional careers as work buddies. And since we've already reached the high point of our tale, there's nowhere to go now but down.
Harden behind the screen.
They are in their grill.
Here's Harden way off 42 threes per game during the season. It's Harden, he forced it through.
With one win away from marching into the NBA Finals, the Beard and his crew suffered an epic collapse in the 2018 playoffs versus the Warriors. And soon after, the first domino fell when Morey left for greener pastures, aka the Philadelphia 76ers. Then, after trying out a season without Morey at the helm, Harden was like, "If you're out, I'm out too." The two lived their separate lives for a moment. With Harden trying to win a chip alongside 2 other ball-dominant dudes in KD and Kyrie, which ultimately failed big time, the next thing he knew was Harden was screaming saying, "Get me out of here!" And although he was quite successful in his first run with Philly, Morey and his new crew ran out of steam in the playoffs. But amidst all of that, he was actually thinking about reacquiring Harden all season long. Because Embiid's partner, well, let's just say that he was a bit of a gun-shy dude, who bricks shots whenever he tries to throw one in. So, with Harden forcing his way out of Brooklyn and Morey scouring the market for a possible replacement to Ben Simmons, there's just things in life that are inevitable, and their reunion was one of them. As expected, Morey pulled the trigger and traded for a familiar face midway through the 2020-21 season. And though it seemed that both Harden and Morey were finally picking up where they both left off,
might mean they win the game and the series. You got game 6 between Boston and Milwaukee.
That when the ball's deflected, your momentum can carry it back in. But he didn't fully establish.
the beard shrunk once again when the light shined the brightest and threw out back-to-back elimination game stinkers in 2 consecutive playoffs. But hey, nothing to worry about. We've seen this before against the Warriors in 2018. I mean, Harden and Morey just have to figure things out. Add new pieces here and there, regroup, and
Daryl Morey is a liar.
Morey is a liar.
And I would never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
so now we've come to this. Now, I'm still as clueless as some of you are as to why Harden said what he said. But if I'm going to put my thinking cap on here real quick, I'm guessing that Harden's ongoing beef with Morey has a lot to do with See, here's the thing. Last summer, Harden declined his $47.4 million option and signed a fresh 2-year deal worth $68.6 million instead, which included a player option in the upcoming 2023-24 season. Now, he turned down that $47.4 million option so that the 76ers could keep him at a lower cost, while providing some financial flexibility to sign a bunch of key players at the same time. In short, Harden took a pay cut in order for the 76ers to improve their roster and build a contending team. After taking one for the team last season, Morey must have promised Harden that they're gonna offer him a new lucrative contract extension for his sacrifice. But as we're all aware, that didn't happen. And so, Harden opted in and asked for a trade, which the 76ers initially entertained. Harden then expressed his intention to be traded solely to the Clippers. But, of course, this was more complicated than it seemed, since Morey had to find a deal that would work best for them, meaning that Morey wouldn't pull the trigger unless he found a suitable deal that would match Harden's value in return. In all fairness to the 76ers, they tried to follow Harden's trade request. However, the 76ers weren't happy with the deal that the Clippers had put together.
And when he opted into the deal, said that he wanted a trade, he wanted one to the Clippers. Now, the Clippers, listen, they would love to trade for James Harden. Their president, Lawrence Frank, Daryl Morey, they talked multiple times this summer about potential deals, but the Sixers' asking price was high. It's remained high. You know, LA really doesn't have the assets to get that kind of a deal done to pair Harden with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. And so I think once we reported on Saturday that those talks were over, that the Sixers had decided to bring James Harden back to camp, something I think largely people around the league felt they would do all along. This is James Harden's next salvo to try to find a way to get traded, to make the Sixers not want to bring him back into camp and make it difficult on that organization to just stand pat and think that they can work this out with Harden.
And after making several rounds of trade talks with other teams, the 76ers weren't able to find the trade package that they were looking for. And so they just pulled the plug altogether, hoping Harden would smoothly return to the fold as if nothing happened. Well, as expected, Harden was unhappy with all of this, and he already said publicly that he had no plans of attending training camp, which looks like it could lead to another stalemate, just like what Ben Simmons did before he got traded. So, to wrap this one up, there are possibly 2 reasons why James Harden called Daryl Morey a liar. One is that Morey could have promised him that he will give him a lucrative extension after taking a pay cut last season. and the other one was the promise that he'll be traded to his preferred destination, but it didn't push through. Well, it could be one of these or both, because as you heard in the clip, Harden called out Morey a liar, not just once, but twice. So, you know, this isn't just any ordinary petty quarrel by two former friends. But nonetheless, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and I think that this beef between Harden and Morey goes way deeper than what we see on the surface. So let's just wait and see what will happen in the next few days.